that's like the pivotal point to get to is seeing yourself as this sacred temple and having that discernment now of like, all right, who am I going to allow in this sacred temple?
So thank you so much, Deanne, for being here with me today. I'm really glad you decided to join me.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. So I want to ask right away, because your name on your Zoom name is Deanne Rose, the Unbridled Woman. Why is it so important for women to learn to be unbridled, to be free?
Yeah, I think there's a point in our life, and it's almost kind of just like this awakening up where you start to question and why you do things, or you kind of reflect upon like the patterns in your life and why you keep repeating the same old things, and what else do I want to do, what else is true for me. And yeah, so just kind of you have this choice. I think that's so important, and especially for women, that we do have a choice. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be tethered to a certain way of being, of acting, of showing up. We have a choice of what's more authentic for ourselves. Well, my lowest point was definitely uh, 20, 2015, when my husband at the time, he wanted a divorce after 23 years. And so that was, and I had been struggling with anxiety and depression for like 3 or 4 years before that. Um, but I wasn't listening to it so much. Because I had two girls, and they were probably 15 and 13 at that time of 2015. So, I was in the stay-at-home mom. I had a little massage business on the side, and I was just going with the flow because I I had done all the things that I was thought I had to do, right? I went to school, I went to college, I got a job, I got married, I had kids, and and the anxiety and depression was definitely a key that was telling me things weren't, I wasn't aligned with what was in my life at that point. And then the divorce happened, that experience, and that was the pivotal time of like, okay, so like, what do I need to look at about myself and how I'm showing up in my life? Who am I, and what do I believe in now? And how can I go forward into, um, it's like, it was a gift that I got to like rewrite a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I get to write a different story with my life now, and how do I want that to show up? So hopefully
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
with your, again, the work that you do, helping women reclaim their pleasure, I'm wondering, where was your pleasure at
Mm.
when this happened? Like when you were married or when the marriage was coming to an end?
We were definitely more roommates than anything. But there was something in my, I had, because I was following the plan, right? So, after I'm like, all right, well, after the girls are in college, the empty nester stuff, we'll reconnect, right? We're just doing this now, and then we'll reconnect. The intimacy really, really wasn't there because I was actually in survival mode so much, with the anxiety and stuff. Like it was like a day-to-day survival mode. So it's hard to bring pleasure in when your root chakra is like, you're very deregulated in your nervous system. Like pleasure isn't, um, you know, definitely sex, and like even pleasure
Mhm.
in like day-to-day stuff. It was just like I got to do this and this and this, and
Right.
so yeah, when you're in that deregulated state, it's definitely hard to, it's impossible to have pleasure. Yeah, you're in
Mm-hmm.
survival mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was first starting to, when I got into actually the relationship that I am in now, one of the things he asked me when we were getting intimate was, what do you like? I was like, I don't know. What do you do? We like, I was like, so, and I looking back at that, and there was just like, oh, the shame of like, I don't
Mhm.
even know what like feels good for me. Like, when no
Mhm.
one asked me, no one ever asked me, and I never
Mm.
asked myself, right? So it's like, whoa, I need to look at that, and yeah, yeah.
Wow, yes. I love that. Like, what do you like? Ooh, what do you got? Just-
You know,
yeah.
and also thinking, even if he would, I have the voice to say, oh, I don't like that, or would I just been like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll just take this, and then, you know, maybe it'll get better, I'll just not date you anymore, kind of,
Mhm.
instead of asking for what I want and need.
What was your, if you remember back, like thinking about dating and like, how did you feel about it? And how long did it take you when you were like, when you kind of felt ready to start kind of putting yourself out there?
So yeah, so I actually had the it was very fortunate because um my ex said he wanted a divorce in January of 2015, but we didn't actually finalize the divorce until December.
Hmm.
Um, so I had this whole year, started doing that more work on myself then.
Hmm.
And, getting my anxiety in check, feeling better, feeling more empowered. I think that the dating I felt more was like, this was just going to be fun.
Hmm.
Not thinking anything would lead into a relationship.
Yeah.
Um, but however, I met my current partner now that I've been with for almost 7 years, like in January of 2016. And when we went on a walking date, I immediately wanted to hold his hand. Like I
Mm.
felt that safe and comfortable. And I listened to, it was that time walking with him, I listened to my intuition and my body. I'm like, this is safe for me. He's
Yes.
safe. And let's explore this. And it just ended up the way it did.
Yes. Wow. The pull of you wanting to hold his hand like that is such a natural thing. And it doesn't sound like your head and your anxiety and anything was
Right.
involved at all. It was just
Right.
like this peaceful coming together. And like your body was telling you, like, yes, this is right. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I mean, there's a whole nother type of healing and growth that happens within relationship that you can't get on your own. So this moment where when you and your partner were um yeah, being intimate with each other and he asked, what do you like? And you didn't know. Tell me about your journey from that moment to where you're at now. Like, how did that start? Like, how did you start to tap into your wants, desires, your pleasure, all that stuff?
One of my good friends, she was all into the divine feminine goddess. So she would always talk to me, oh, you have to connect to the goddess within you. you know and I'm like, well, all right, how do I do that? So like anything, I think things just started coming to me. Like in 2017 I began a plant medicine journey, and in 2018 I had met this woman, and she was the epitome of this divine feminine. She was not only just beautiful to look at, but when she walked into a room, uh, she had this energy, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I want that, like that I want what she's having. Like what is that? Like,
What was that? Like,
um,
how did you experience that? Like, what was she like?
I just saw this woman in her power, just you know, asking for what she wanted, and just having this. It was just this joy that would emanate from her, like just almost like this inner peace of like she's comfortable in her skin. All of those things like I wanted for myself, I saw in her.
Hmm.
And so it's through her I got introduced to Layla Martin, who I took this year-long coaching of sex, love, and relationship. And that is when, so that 6 months of that program was inner work. And it was profound. Coming to a fact where I don't know anything about my body. how it really even works, how to even bring like what is this inner bliss and like what is this pleasure, not only like sexual, but how can I see pleasure in life in general?
Do you remember any moment or anything throughout that time when you were working with Layla, like a moment where you, for the maybe the first time or something really, where you felt that pleasure?
I remember doing a practice, um, and in that practice, I actually was it was called yoni dearmoring, and
Mm.
I did. I was really getting close to my cervix area, and that's a very sensitive place for women. There's a lot of traumatic energy gets stuck here, and I remember through that process just crying, just and sometimes you cry and you kind of know what you're crying about. This was just this tears. I'm like, I don't know what these are for. Like even the way I was crying was different. It even sounded like a different person. And
Wow.
I realized that I'm like, this is like deep, deep healing. This could actually be really deep ancestral healing that's happening. I really truly feel like there was definitely this cosmic shift there of that healing that yeah, it brought more an awareness that I am connected to so much around me, and even like
Mm-hmm.
the women before me, women I don't even know,
Mm.
and and through more work like that, just the understanding of our interconnectedness with everything, that comes that place of that pleasure.
When you talk about the womb and that being, the center of creation, and also what you mentioned about the de-armoring your yoni and moving up to the cervix, and some, I guess, trauma and sensitivity that could be stored there. So I had a moment with my own womb. I was taking a bath actually, and I just put my hands on my womb, and I don't even know. I was pretty relaxed. I didn't have a plan what I was doing. I just put my hands there and I started talking to her. And all of a sudden, I asked her for forgiveness for
Mm.
the things she had been exposed to, from just anything that women experience, like the trauma that she was exposed to, the objects that she was exposed to, everything like that. And
Mm.
I just asked her for forgiveness, and same thing, like I started crying. It was like a little grieving thing, but also I could feel like it's just love there. Like she wasn't upset or anything like that, but I
Right.
needed her to forgive me for putting her
Yeah.
through that. And also
Hmm.
in that moment too was this like bonding, and also a promise about, I'm never going to expose you to things like this again. Like, you are holy, you are sacred.
Hmm.
And I feel like that really contributed to my own journey to that divine feminine, and that, like, yeah, feeling my own sensuality, my own pleasure. I think I had to address some of that
Yeah.
trauma that area my womb has experienced.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's like the pivotal point to get to is seeing yourself as this sacred temple and having that discernment now of like, all right, who am I going to allow in this sacred temple, right? So because
Yes.
when we are when we are sexually active with somebody, there's this energetic connection, and we do take some of their stuff on, and we it's when you're aware of that, and when you can see yourself as this sacred goddess here, it's like, okay, like who's going to be able to come into these doors?
One thing that you made me think of was like when we talked about like the our body and like the sacred temple, and also who am I going to allow in, and
Mm.
also not having one night stands. And that is something that has changed so much for me. Like, I just left my 5-year relationship. And before that, I was like, sure, I was like having sex to have sex. That's fine. I am not there at all anymore. I am like, no, you may not. And even if I have someone, that I'll feel safe with or connected with, I just want to make sure that like there is like a good amount of time where that safety, that connection that gets built up. So I don't want to rush. What do you think is like a first couple of steps for someone who, might be very afraid of physical intimacy, who might have no real connection to their divine feminine, to their body, to their womb?
What's important to start with, and this I would also believe, help with dating and maybe like the jitters and stuff, is to get more of a breathing practice, because when we breathe, we become more grounded in our bodies. I like to also bring in movement and dance, because that also gets us connected into our bodies and feeling. And not the dance where you're taking like it's choreographed. It's that dance where you just start music and you just let your body like hang and just start to move like what needs to move, like there's and those are the most beautiful dances ever that come out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that freedom. I think that's when freedom starts. Like then they start to take off that bridle. Like I don't have to dance a certain way. What I suggest to my clients right off the bat is, and it could be very uncomfortable at first, but again, becoming more intimate with your body. And that
Mm-hmm.
one is yoni gazing, is using a mirror and actually looking at your yoni.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, men look at them, they can look at it all they want because their penis, because it's right outside, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know about you, but when I grew up, it's like you don't even, touch it, you don't look at it, it's, so I think the only time I ever looked at my yoni was when I was younger and trying to use a tampon, and I had to like figure out, I'm like, oh, there's like a bunch of holes down there, like which one, so um getting affiliated, what's it look like,
Mm-hmm.
and giving that appreciation. And again, like what you did with your womb is like, oh, you're so beautiful. And you get a relationship, right? And you get a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with that, and with your yoni, and then with your breasts. Like breast massage is really beautiful, because in tantra we have different polarity points, and the women we receive through our yoni, and we give out through our chest.
Mm-hmm.
But also the chest is also the portal for the opening of the yoni. So, giving ourselves that a nice breast massage and giving the love. And just in my experience is just becoming more connected to the parts of ourselves that can give us pleasure, um, and allowing ourselves to breathe and move in the way we want to. That's the woman who starts to come into a room and feel very empowered.
How did these practices and coming into your own pleasure and the relationship with your body, how has that now helped you get to know what you like in terms of intimacy?
I mean, I've been with my partner for a while, so we kind of know what each other's likes or stuff. But things change, so I definitely suggest, like, if there's any like deeper conversations that have to happen, like they don't happen in the bedroom. They happen
Mm-hmm.
outside in a more neutral spot, because so they're, so it's able to be received and not, sometimes people get defensive, like, you always used to like
Yes.
that, what happened? Or, so it's just,
Something, as you say
yeah.
that, something just came up for me because I'm like, oh my God. Um, my ex and I always had those conversations in the bed as it happened. And it was just, it took the air out of everything. And it like then it ended up being like, well, okay, we're going to be intimate now. Something's going to happen. And then we're going to end up in a big, long discussion. So I just don't even want to bother. So it's such a good point. Like, don't have those conversations in the bed, in the bedroom, or wherever you are attempting to be physically
Yeah.
intimate.
If I was still dating, I would I would make, the talk about intimacy kind of sooner than later,
Mm,
just to kind of feel out this person and how, if you're asked, say, this is what I like to do, or like how if this like scenarios, like if this was happening and I said stop, how would you react?
mm,
And seeing how they would, if they're like, if you automatically they get defensive or they're like,
yes.
or like, you know,
Well, and even
I,
having that conversation and I don't want to say putting them on the spot, but in a way putting them on the spot and seeing how they react to having this conversation. Because
mm-hmm.
that's going to be important that they're open to receive what you have to say and that they're able to navigate that.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, how are they receiving you? Yeah, asking for what you want or saying what you don't like, you know? And again, I mean it's all a dance too, I know when I first started, I guess, finding my voice, it wasn't very, it just like blurt out. So and that's it's kind of like a child trying something new. You just have to, and then you get a little bit more refined. I highly recommend, if especially women who date, if they haven't, follow Allison Armstrong, because she gives really incredible advice about relationships, and if you're heterosexual, about men, um, and how to really relate to them, to
Mm-hmm.
have them. Because in general, men, like, they're here to be of service, to please,
Yeah.
and so they want to open the door for you. Like, so, like, for us, a lot of times, one of the things I had to look at when I started actually studying under her, I saw that I did emasculate my ex-husband a lot, because
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it. I got it, but I can do this. And of course, you can do it on your own, of course.
Mm-hmm.
However, they want to do things for you as well. So
Yeah.
it's just allowing that to happen.
When we do, we come into our feminine and like the man provides for us is in service to us and that allows us to let go, to surrender and to be in that feminine space, which
Mhm.
feels so like it just feels so good and like relaxing and calm and peaceful. Whereas the
Yeah.
other, do this or okay, I'll just do it myself. That feels tight and controlling and tense. So even though we might have to learn a little bit of a new language, it's at the end, we're gonna feel so good.
Yeah. Yeah. When you
Mhm.
say that, I had this image. A lot of the goddesses out there are, when they're pictured, so the two energies of the Shakti, the divine feminine, and Shiva is the divine masculine. They're on the usually the divine masculine is either like laying down or like somehow supporting the Shakti, the goddess above. And so through my learning, is the divine masculine is that being. It's the being, and the divine feminine is the becoming. So she gets to basically dance. Shakti gets to dance on Shiva. The divine feminine gets to dance, and not in a like dance on and take over, but it's the platform for which the divine feminine can just be, and the divine masculine is also the container, or like you're looking at the I like to think of the banks of a river, because if the divine
Mm,
feminine is allowed to just flow with all the
yes.
water, it could be very destructive. You have flooding and all that, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
divine masculine are the banks of the river to contain, not
Mm,
bridle, because she's still
mm-mm.
flowing and she's
Mm-hmm.
going everywhere, where she wants. She's, um,
Yes.
but it's it's allowing her that container to be in the most the heightened version of herself, so she's not all over the place.
Oh, amazing. I'm recently single, so I'm back in the dating field myself, and this is just so, yeah, just so inspiring. And yeah, I'm just so excited to see what's next for me as well. And like that type of relationship, the experiencing the containment that a man can provide for me while I flow, while I experience
Yeah.
joy, while I let go of my control. Yeah,
Oh,
and
can I add one thing? I just thought
yeah.
of it is also is important for women, is also to remember a lot of men have been conditioned with the feminist movement of the woman can do things for herself, you know, and they might not be comfortable with that, but that's what they feel like they have to be,
Hmm.
So if they're not opening your doors or doing that, it doesn't mean that they don't want to. Is I think
Hmm.
they've erred on the side of they don't want to offend the woman.
Yeah.
So that's the point where the woman can speak up. It's like, you know what? I really love when men open the door for me because it really helps me feel more feminine. And I
Yes.
bet you'd be like, oh, thank you, because that's the way I was brought up. But I've shut that down because society has told me that that's not the way that women want to be treated. So it's when you start coming more in your power, you become the teacher to the man.
Yeah.
So it's not like write off every man because of like there's a lot of potentiality there. They've just like us been conditioned to be one way. So,
Hmm.
be the woman, be in your power and gently lead that man into his highest potential as well.
I love it. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So if you were to give one piece of advice only to women that want a healthy relationship and they're just kind of dipping their toes, what would that one piece of advice be?
I would just suggest that they start to know themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that they do that work to know themselves first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 'Cause if you don't know what you want, you don't know what you desire, you don't know what your truth is, you can't expect that other person to know or the universe to attract to you what is in your highest good. Because if you're all over the place, those are the kind of people that you're going to get into your life, like the ones who are all over the place.
Yes. Yeah, great point. What is your favorite music right now or your favorite song to dance to?
Mm. Um, I love, and it's not so much, I don't know a specific song right now, but I love to dance actually to the piano music.
Really?
Um,
Interesting.
and then also to anything that has like a percussion or drums, like something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the piano, I don't know. I just maybe I kind of feel like a little ballerina or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it opens up like my fairy energy.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and what's your spirit animal and why?
My spirit animal is the jaguar, and
Ooh.
she actually came to me one time in plant medicine, but the jaguar represents courage, intuition, and decisiveness. So I'm like, well, that's pretty spot on.
I love that.
So yeah.
Where can women go to find out more about you, working with you, or checking out the work that you do?
Yeah, so my website is deannerose.net, and I'm on Instagram as Deanne Rose Coaching. I have actually a Facebook group called Everything Sex and Intimacy. So it's just kind of a little sex education there as well.
And there's some great sex and intimacy tips on there, like really unfiltered as well, and just the things that we're all wondering about. And you just very openly and honestly explain it. So yeah, definitely recommend people check out your Facebook page for sure. Well, it's
Yeah.
been such a treat chatting with you today.
No,
I
thank
loved
you.
hearing about your journey and how you got started with feeling pleasure in your life, connecting with your divine feminine. And thank you for sharing all the tips that you gave us. And it was a good reminder to some like daily practices that I probably need to bring back into my life. So thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
you're
being here.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.